Hi, this is Ken LaValle of Enterprise Bank, and welcome to another edition of Enterprise Bank Presents Dollars and Cents. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Prima Nagathan from Enterprise Bank, my colleague in the security department. And today, for today's show, we have a very special guest, the superintendent of the Lowell Police Department, Kelly Richardson. Kelly has been on the job now as superintendent, as chief, for about a year. I worked with Kelly for a long time. He was a great partner, a great asset to the Lowell Police Department, obviously as evidenced by his now rising to the top of the Lowell Police Department as the chief. So, Superintendent Richardson, tell me about your first year in office and how it's gone.
I don't know what you were doing up there all those years, but I don't remember you being as busy as I've been, but they told me it's because I was new. But yeah, it's been a busy year. It flew by very quickly. They all say that the older you get, the time goes by faster. Right. But definitely my first year at the helm here is flown by. And now it's kind of like, I'm heading into my second year and, try to accomplish some things that I committed to when I was sworn in. Right. And I think I've hit on a lot of them already, but there's still some work that needs to be done. And things are going well. I tell you, I'm very, we've got a great police department. Right. The people that work there just do a phenomenal job.
Yeah. As we were gathering today for the show, we were talking about the police presence in downtown Lowell. And Prima, you noted that we have seen an increased police presence, and we've seen the presence of officers. And tell me about that new dedication to the police presence in downtown Lowell.
Well, it really started off with a conversation about the Lowell District Court. There was a possibility that we could build a new police station there someday down the road. Not now. Obviously, we have this big project coming up now at the high school. We have to get by that, and so it could be years down the road. But we went over and we took a look at it, myself and the city manager, and when we left and realized that building, we just couldn't move into it. We'd have to spend too much money. Right. It just wasn't viable. That I knew that it would be years down the road before we got a new police station. I knew it was important that we had to be downtown. I think that all the work that's been done here, Lowell is right on the cusp. And with that new Hamilton Canal project over there, that's what really struck me. We need to make sure and treat downtown like a neighborhood. There's a lot of people do live down here now. And before we used to do like a 9 to 5 thing, and then we deal with the bars at night when they emptied out. But we needed more of a presence. I wanted people to drive into the city and see police officers and feel safe downtown. Sure. So that's where we come up with the plan, and we found the bodies to do it. And then the manager jumped in feet first and found us a location down on Central Street, which is a great spot. Some people had concerns about that, like we have a PD right next to City Hall, but with that plaza, the way it's set up, a lot of people won't. Right. And
I understand.
We had to do the medication disposal days, people wouldn't come down because they didn't want to walk out. It was a long walk for them. So at least this way, you're downtown, you can walk right over to the precinct, and there'll be someone there. And we have the UMass Lowell interns now. They're going to come over and help us out over there, so that's a good thing for them and for us. So, yeah, so far, so good.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, several of my students inquired about the opportunity to be a volunteer and work at the substation in downtown Lowell, and I spoke with them about that and referred them to Sharon Callery, of course. And I visited the substation last week, and I was able to speak with Officer Manousis, Officer Davis, had a nice conversation with them, and it seems like a very bright, good location for the presence in downtown Lowell. And then not only that, but I mean the presence of offices on the street corners. When we're leaving work from Enterprise Bank, we see them, Prima and I see them, and our employees have commented on how great it's been. So we're very, very, obviously, all of us at Enterprise Bank, Mr. Duncan, Mr. Clancy, Mr. Main, are all very, very confident in the Lowell Police, ability to keep us safe and secure in downtown Lowell.
Yeah, they're doing a great job down there. They really are. The officers, I see them out there myself, and Chicky and Bill Callahan, they're out there all the time walking, and people stationed at different areas in the morning. When people come into the city, they see them, in the same thing in the afternoon when they leave. So if they need to talk to an officer, they're right there. They don't have to get on the phone and call.
Absolutely. And now you have a first-year recap, but something I'd like to discuss with you prior to even looking at this is the partnerships the Lowell Police Department has formed with other, community organizations in the city, the Lowell Fire Department, the District Attorney's Office, Lowell House, Trinity EMS. All those organizations coming together have really, I think, resulted in, according to this Lowell Sun article, a major drop in the overdoses in Lowell. So tell me about that. This has been a vexing problem for the city and for the region. The opioid epidemic was very substantial, and it just started to take off as I was retiring from the police department. That introduction of fentanyl really just, put it through the roof. So tell me what's been happening in terms of reducing overdoses in Lowell.
Well, I think that you already hit on it. The partnerships, you know, we actually ran the co-op program for a long time, and then we finally decided that it would probably be better served that the health department served it. But we left the officer there, Cheryl Mercer, who does a tremendous job, and it's a team. And I didn't want to break that team up because they were very successful, and they go out every day and they follow up on all our overdoses. They make sure that the person, that hopefully that they. It's like an elevator ride. Some people have to get off at the 5th floor. Some people have to go all the way down the weeds before they realize that they need help. And that's when we try to get them right after they have that overdose. So hopefully that inner voice, will convince them that they need to get this help. They can't keep living the way they are just because they survived a couple of, thank God for Narcan, they survived a couple of overdoses. But the odds are you're not going to, because you're going to be the big, the ones we lose the most are the ones that are by themselves.
Right.
Go out
the overdose alone.
They overdose alone in a home or out in the woods somewhere. So, we follow up with them. We go out to wherever they are. That's why like that UTV that we bought. We can, if we have to utilize that to get out into the woods to find homeless population, and then that's one of the things that we use. So it's going well. I hope they keep dropping the way it's going. But
yes. Yeah.
Just keep plugging away at it.
It seems that Lowell has made tremendous strides in reducing the opioid epidemic. In other words, I look at some of the issues that are occurring in other cities, and I see that they haven't had the positive impact that we've had in Lowell. So I think that that's a wonderful thing, and I think it's a great job that this co-op team, which consists of police, fire, Trinity EMS, the Lowell House, all of them together working to deal with this issue is a very positive thing.
No, it is. It's we'll do our best to fight our way out of it, but it's going to be a long run.
Right. Of course. Yeah, it's going to take a while. Tell me about some of the highlights. Additionally, to this reduction in overdoses. What else has happened in your first year? And I know you have a recap here of some really tremendous positive developments in the police department.
Well, not that we were in a bad place when I was very fortunate to be handed a police department that was in very good shape. There's no controversy. Bill Taylor, yourself, Ed Davis. I've learned from all of you, and then when I finally got to drive the ship, I kind of knew I had to go just a little bit more, So I kind of, my first year was the kind of, morale was good, but I thought it could be better. So I started working on our tools. Basically, that's our people, and I brought them in. I've listened to many of them. I made a commitment to try to listen to every single officer in this organization. I'm probably up to about 80 right now. It's not as easy as I thought it was going to be. Trying to find these kids on nights and have them come in, and every time they show up at the chief's office, they're like, that was the longest ride down Dutton Street I ever took.
Right.
I goes, I didn't tell you, I just wanted to talk to you. But so a lot of the ideas that came from the actual officers, and that was like the buy-in.
Right.
And they jumped in feet first, and we tweaked our mission statement, which is always a great mission statement. And two of the officers, Seppi and Kignan, come up with the idea of the challenge coins, and they actually designed them. So we went out and purchased them, and then we did a Survey Monkey, and over 100, you'll laugh at this, over 100 police officers responded to the Survey Monkey, and police officers don't do that.
Yeah,
and they
great.
come up with the 6 core values themselves. We put a committee together with both unions. So we did that, and then I was a little reluctant at first about the cars. I didn't want to send the wrong message here, but after I saw how well the officers were doing, and I wanted to kind of rebrand the organization, and I think that painting the cars back the way they used to be in the old days, so the officers kind of felt more as police officers, because the way the climate is right now in the country, with officers having water poured over their head, I just wanted to have them feel proud to come to work. And so we looked at the vehicles, and we decided to go with this scheme here, and the officers are happy. It's a tool, as you know. It's all the police cars. It doesn't. You can't judge who drives a car by the color of the car. We live in a society today, we don't judge people. So this is basically a tool. These vehicles, I think, stand out more, and they're a lot less visible at night, which is when we do most of our, moving around the city, watching for crime or whatever. These cars don't stand out as much as my opinion, as the other ones do. So
this new color scheme is very sharp. It's really, and it's the black and white, right? It's what many police departments across the country have. The old color scheme was more of a white, bluish type of tone. But those look great. These look great as well.
Nice,
and it's good to have put your mark on the organization and reflect what the officers would like to see. And I love these new core values, or the core values that really have always been there. But now we've just we've listed them: integrity, respect, accountability, community, sanctity of life, and knowledge. So I think that those core values are really very impressive.
I've seen the new cruisers on the connector driving down, reminding people to drive slow, be careful, be safe. Definitely, I think it's a very sharp-looking vehicle. And
Absolutely. And we put the challenge coins on the back doors of the car, so every time the officer gets in the car, they're going to remember our 4 fallen officers that's on one side of the coin, and the other side of the vehicle has our core value. So when people pull up next to these vehicles in traffic that maybe aren't from Lowell and don't know what the Lowell Police were about, they're going to be able to look up at the side of this vehicle and see what we're about.
Right.
Yeah.
You look at the challenge coin and you see, the Russis Memorial,
Yep.
which is dedicated to Officer Chris Russis, who was killed in the line of duty in 1978.
November 17th.
Right, and we all remember that. Those of us who were around then, and it was a very tragic time for the Lowell Police Department. But thank God, nothing like that has happened since. So we'll hope for the best, and I think that the way the officers are trained now, the way the officers have this protective gear that they carry, right, this equipment that you see many of the officers wearing, the way they have things like less than lethal with the taser, a pepper spray, the radio equipment, all those things go a long way to protecting our officers and keeping them safe.
Right, and that's like with the sanctity of life. That's what it's about. I sent that message very clear through the organization that we try all means to protect people's lives. And like you say, we have the beanbag shotguns, the tasers, and the officers have done a tremendous job in those situations. I think of the incident up in the Highlands a couple months back where the man had barricaded himself in the house and lit the house on fire. That could have gone any way, but he was schizophrenic.
Yeah.
He was in the driveway with a knife when the officers arrived, and I'm in my office listening to this. I'm like, oh, please don't. Like that could just change everything. Saying to the officers, as we call it, they dialed it down and they took a step back. They got the mother out of the house and just slowed everything down to like almost a crawl.
Right.
And then we walked through it, and the SWAT officers showed up and filled the cellar basically with water with the fire department. That's how we got him out, kind of flushed him out.
Yeah.
And he was able to get transported from the scene to the hospital where he needed to be.
Right.
So I was proud of them that day. They did a great job.
So it's been a very busy and productive first year.
Yes,
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things are going really well, and people seem to be very happy. Can't keep everybody happy all the time.
Well,
but we're
Best.
that's right. But we're
Best,
trying our best.
Yeah. And you're graduating an academy on October 17th?
Yes, that's correct. So we should have 8 officers hopefully by then on the street. They'll go into the FTO program
Right.
after that with a field training officer. They'll do, I think it's 12 weeks of that, and then they'll be assigned to patrol.
All right.
And there'll be time to start all over again and hire another academy.
There you
class.
go.
So,
I know.
yeah,
It's
so
just
you
a
know
never-ending
yeah,
cycle.
you keep
Because through attrition,
trying to-
officers are
yeah.
retiring, leaving the department. You have to recycle them to put new officers on the department. So this is a process that goes on constantly. It never ends. It never ends. Well, I hope you've enjoyed listening in for this first half of Enterprise Bank Presents Dollars and Cents. We'll come back in a minute, and when we do, I'll turn the discussion over to Prima. We're going to talk about some of the issues we're seeing at Enterprise Bank, some of the serious problems with, unfortunately, some elderly exploitation that's really starting to become very problematic in the community, and we'll ask the superintendent to chime in on that as well.
This program is proudly sponsored by Enterprise Bank, a full-service commercial institution serving 17 communities. Enterprise Bank helps create successful businesses, meaningful jobs, strong, vibrant communities, and opportunities and prosperity for our customers, shareholders, and employees. To speak to an Enterprise advisor, call 978-459-9000 or visit our website, enterprisebanking.com. Enterprise, an independent bank with community at its core. Member FDIC.
I'd like to welcome our viewers back from the break at Enterprise Bank Presents Dollars and Cents. And this show is really special for me because I have 2 chiefs here, and it's been a lot of fun and having Ken on our security team. And Chief, it was great to hear a little bit about what you have been doing, the wonderful work you've been doing in the police department and in the community, and it's definitely very visible, and we see that. So thank you for keeping us safe in Lowell. So I want to talk a little bit about financial crimes. As the security team of Enterprise Bank, we are constantly busy working with our customers, either trying to protect them from falling victim to scams, or in some instances it's a little too late before we got to know and the money is gone and the customers have suffered a loss as a result of various types of scams that they become exposed to. And we're trying to work with our customers in conjunction with local law enforcement. And the Lowell PD has a great criminal bureau. The detectives are fantastic, the officers are fantastic, helping us trying to chase the money and get it back to our customers. What we have seen and a significant increase in is elder exploitation. We had a customer recently that we worked with. She had just opened an account with us. She had a previous banking relationship with another bank. So it kind of had raised some initial red flags as to why a very well-established elderly person needed to open a new bank account at a new bank. But kind of, just welcomed her, and there were certain things. She had just deposited a check earlier in the day at one of the branches and came in a few hours later wanting to withdraw the money. Again, it's something that we find a little unusual, the sudden need to withdraw the funds, which in most cases you would not be able to access those funds the same day. Checks do take time to process and clear. So our frontline staff in the branches, our tellers, are constantly being trained to look out for those red flags, anything that's out of place, anything that may raise some concerns as to what's going on with the transaction, really with the mind to protect our customers. It's really to look out for their best benefit in this. So the teller had noticed that she had come back a couple hours later wanting to withdraw the money. She was in the drive-up lane. The teller explained to her, you just made the deposit earlier in the day. You will have to wait some time before you could access those funds. And the very alert teller was actually able to overhear the customer talk on the phone in the drive-up lane to somebody on the phone saying, well, I'm at the bank, but they won't let me withdraw the money. Another red flag kind of just went off to say, okay, what might be going on? Just assessing the situation. They were good to report it to us in the security department, and we started to do a little bit of an investigation and trying to look at that. When we reached out to the customer to really try and understand what might be going on so we can assist her, what we found out was that she was in contact with an individual that she believed may have been a Jamaican individual, calling her on her cell phone, talking to her for hours, and had convinced her that she was going to win millions of dollars to the Publisher Clearinghouse. But to be able to win the big earning, she would have to send several thousands of dollars in fees, and that was for her to not go through the IRS and not pay the taxes.
Sure.
Which we all know when you win the lottery that there's a process. There are people who have won millions of dollars through a legal lottery scheme. They have to go through the proper channels, but for her to have to send them the money first, for her to win the earnings was obviously a concern, but she was convinced. So in talking to her, we were able to realize that, okay, she's definitely fallen victim. She had already in the past, well before she could come to us, had sent gift cards. She had wired money to various individuals. She was sending money in the mail. So obviously a lot of damage had already occurred at that point. And she lives by herself, and she's a very hardworking woman. She's worked all her life. She lives off of Social Security, and she didn't even have enough money to pay her rent. So we were able to work with the local law enforcement there. They were very, very helpful. Immediately went to the elderly person's house, and unfortunately, when they went to meet her, she was standing outside her house, dressed in her finest clothes, very happy, and waiting for the Publisher Clearinghouse to be there to bring her the millions of dollars. And I think we all know and understand that was not going to happen. So they were able to now work with her family members. So I think she is getting the help that she needs. But Chief, are you seeing things like that? I know this is just probably one of the many things that are happening in all our communities, not just in Lowell, but beyond. Are you seeing things like that, and what do you think should people do to protect themselves before they fall victim to these types of scams?
Well, I mean, even personally, on the personal note, I get several phone calls a day from people, and you look like you think you know the number, and they've actually been able to disguise a number to look like one that's called you before.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden I answer it, and you realize you get that pause, and the tape recorded, and all of a sudden the voice comes on. So it's happening everywhere, and I know it's increased here in Lowell. My biggest fear is that, obviously this is a very sad story that you talk about with this woman standing out front and all dressed up and, here's my big payday. And my fear is that, things like this will happen and someone will be embarrassed and won't contact us.
That's right.
And that's very important. People make mistakes sometimes, but I think that to answer your question, it's kind of like if it's too good to be true, you need to take a step back and don't be afraid if you're not sure what's going on to ask someone, whether it's if you have children or whatever, you can reach out or even call the police and let them say I have some concerns here. But I have to give the bank credit, because that's what's good about Enterprise Bank, is that in a bigger bank they probably wouldn't even pick up on some of this stuff and they wouldn't have that personal connection. So if you to pick up on that and help this woman before she even knew she realized she needed the police
Right.
is, again, partnerships. We talked about partnerships the first half of the show,
Absolutely,
so here we
Right.
have this partnership, a former chief working at the bank and, working with the security. It's the only way it can work, but I think we need to get more of the education out there too,
Right.
especially during our neighborhood meetings, we take advantage of those and we make sure that we get
Yeah.
them out. And, we talked about the social media part of it on the break, we can use that, to get the word out to our elderly residents that,
Right.
you know what, if you don't feel funny calling us and asking us questions or come to a neighborhood meeting, but just don't, if it's too good to be true,
Right.
you really need to take a step back.
Yeah.
And I think scams really target people of all ages.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I
Yep.
think the elderly become victim probably quickly and easily because they're very trusting and they want to help people. They want to do the right thing. But you're absolutely right also about the stigma of falling
Yeah.
victim. I think it happens
Right.
to the best of us sometimes because we just are in the right moment and someone calls you and they says this is happening. I had a friend who's trying to sell a vehicle online on Craigslist, one of her minivans, and sure enough, she gets this check in the mail. They want it right away. They haven't seen the vehicle. They haven't driven the vehicle. And here there's a check in FedEx sitting in her mailbox. And she called me and she said, what should I do? And I said, what do you think? And she said, it doesn't look right. And so I said, you're right. Are there other types of things that our elderly citizens in the town should be aware of as far as protecting themselves?
Well, I think that, again, going back to if you have any doubts, make sure you call us. If you don't recognize the number or if there's a pause, I just continue the call right there. There's no reason to talk to people. So once they get you on the phone, they'll do everything they can to keep you on the phone.
Right.
We talked about that earlier. This woman was on the phone for hours at a time.
Yep.
There's different things. Like one of the other things that they were doing for a while, they would call up elderly people and tell them that a relative was under arrest and they needed to have the money right
That's
away.
right.
And people,
Grandparents can.
how does that? I mean, now their heart drops. They're like, oh my God,
Yeah. My grandson.
my grandson, and they don't want to tell their own kids. And
That's
that's
right.
how they play it. I really don't want my parents to know.
Right.
Yeah.
So that kind of stops them from talking to their own children because they would have picked right up on it that that's not
Yeah.
the way this works.
Right.
So I think the communication part is very important. If you have any doubts, to reach out. You call the police.
Right.
Call a neighbor, call the bank. Look for the information.
Right.
What I've also heard with the grandparent scam is if you have a caller ID, it may even show on the caller ID Lowell Police Department. It could show that, or any town that you live
IRS.
in.
IRS.
IRS.
Yeah. Sheriff's
I have
Department.
received
Yep.
calls on my cell phone saying it's the IRS, and I'm a law-abiding citizen, and I've paid my taxes. And if I had a concern, I would be
Yeah.
looking up
Right.
IRS and calling
Yeah.
their office to find
Absolutely.
out, but never send money,
No.
gift cards, green dot cards, wiring at Walgreens or Walmart or any
CVS,
place
yeah.
where you go, or CVS pharmacy, because they do allow you to do wire transfers, MoneyGram. Those are all Apple cards. They're all really
Right. Yeah, and some people think
Part of
if they
a
don't
scam.
send the card, they're protected, but if you give them the number on the card, the money is gone,
It's gone.
right? So it doesn't matter if you're holding that
Yeah.
card in your possession, the money is gone because they have the number attached to the card.
Good
And I think
point.
the point you make about stigma and shame is well taken, because what happens is, and I think I could just mention a comment you told me about a customer who, you said, please tell your family, your friends about what happened to you. And his comment was, I will never tell anybody what happened to me because I'm so ashamed, I'm so embarrassed by what happened and the money I've lost as a result of this.
Yeah.
And that's where we hope a show like this
Right.
Yes.
can try and get this word out, because it's really happening on a daily
Right.
basis.
And just
It's
not the
terrible.
elderly people, like
Right.
you said, it's
Yeah.
everybody. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe you get hoodwinked and you let your guard down for 1 second, you're on the phone, and
Right.
especially if they play on your emotions, then it's hard.
Without a doubt.
You can't be embarrassed by that. We
Yeah.
make mistakes. We're
Right.
not in the business of judging people, we're in the business of helping people.
And if you do send money, there's a possibility, if you notify the bank right away, that you could recover some funds.
Good.
And if you hesitate and don't do it, then it's the money's gone. So
Right.
as soon as you recognize, and it reminds me of a paving scam that occurred in a community near here, who the elderly woman was basically bamboozled by this paver and put down this really thin layer of crap on her driveway and charged her thousands of dollars, and then immediately with the check made a beeline for our bank. She called her son. Told her son what happened. Her son called us right away and said, do not cash that check.
Good.
And as soon as that guy arrived at the bank, the PD was waiting for him.
Nice.
So he
So
got
you're
locked
right.
up.
Sometimes don't think it's too late. Just call the
Right.
local PD or call the bank and just let them know, because we see these things happen all the time. You're never going to say, oh my gosh, I can't believe you fell for this. We want to
know.
help you quickly.
Right, right.
But with wire transfers and gift cards, once the money is gone, it's all electronic. It's most of the time it's not possible for us to recuperate the money, but sometimes yes.
Right,
Yeah.
right, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, what else do we want to talk about? Anything good?
I think, overall, one of the plugs I want to put as a financial institution to customers really is, if you see something on your account, whether it's a debit card transaction or an ACH transaction, anything that doesn't look right, call your bank right away.
Right.
Timing is of the essence. Maybe there are stops we can put. Maybe we can return the money. Sometimes it might also be a credit, not necessarily a debit. People get concerned when they see a debit that's
Sure.
I didn't do.
Oh, that's
I didn't-
good.
Yeah, but if you see a credit or debit that's a deposit coming into your account and you don't recognize it, also please call the bank, because
That's right.
sometimes what we have seen is they'll try to intercept the account to see if it's a legitimate account by sending us in a small dollar
Sure.
deposit just
Sure.
to see if it's working.
Right.
But I think really what I think people need to realize and understand is they have a lot of resources. Lowell Police is a resource to them. The local bank is a resource to them, and we're here to help.
Right.
So reach out to us, and we'll certainly be happy to kind of walk you through the
And if you
situation.
ever were inclined to have some type of a presentation to the community chief, and you wanted to talk about, let's say at the senior center, and speak with the elderly about these issues, we would gladly accompany you
Well,
and
that's
talk
great.
and talk from the
Yes.
bank's perspective about how to protect them. So we could put together a program, and I know we've done that in the past, and we've gone there with George Asamoah, Officer Asamoah, representing the senior center at the time. We can put that together and go out with you, and these programs are very well received by the elderly. And when you get them to talk, they start conveying stories about
Yeah.
things that have happened to them or
Yeah.
their neighbors, their friends, and they've got a million stories, and they love to basically kind of relate these issues to us. So we would gladly do that with you if you're ever inclined to do that.
I think we have a duty to do it, and I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. I think that, you know what I mean, to protect our elderly, I will do that in a heartbeat. We'll set this up, we'll get it done.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can film it maybe. That'd be even better.
Absolutely.
We can put it on the Lowell Police
Share
Department
it.
Facebook and
That's
share
right.
it.
Yeah.
And get to even more people, just in case people can't get down to the elderly
Without
center,
a
or
doubt.
we decide to do it that night.
Yeah.
But we will definitely do that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
That's
no,
a great
that'd
idea.
be great.
Yep.
I think we have a lot of work to do, and one of the things Ken and I always say on this show is knowledge is power. The more we can really raise the
Get it out there.
awareness on financial crimes and scams, the better will our community members be
Yeah.
able to detect that.
Yeah.
Chief, thank you so much for coming on our
No,
show. This
thank
is a
you.
great
I appreciate
discussion. We would love to have you back, because I think there's so much more we can talk about.
Oh, absolutely.
So we would thank you for your time today.
Lifetime partner with the bank. Don't worry,
Yes.
I'll be
Thank
around.
you. Thank
Don't
you.
miss the
We
dark on that.
appreciate
Yeah.
Yeah,
that.
well,
Yeah.
it's with many banks, right? It's
Yeah.
with Eastern Bank
yeah.
and
Yeah.
Lowell 5
All
and so many
community
others. We
banks.
all
Lot of
work
good
together.
partnerships here, yeah.
And we
Lot
have
of
great
good
partnerships with those banks. We
Yes.
don't consider them our, we work together.
Absolutely.
We're a
That's the only
team,
way it works.
basically.
It's
Absolutely,
really-
you know?
it's-
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep,
And again,
thank you.
great show, great discussion,
Yep.
and thank you very much. Thank you all for tuning into Enterprise Bank Presents Dollars and Cents. This is Prema Nagathan from Enterprise Bank, and my co-host Ken LaValle from Enterprise Bank, saying thank you for now.